desire for wealth, status, and power is based on a faulty estimate of their value, which means we're all selfish. We all are willing to work hard to earn more money and to get into this career and that sort of stuff. And then he simultaneously says, but we do it kind of based on an inappropriately high perception of the value of these sorts of things, right? So we attribute more value to them than we really should. And so, simultaneously, he contended that our greatest happiness comes from, not from gaining status and wealth and those sorts of things, but from, the greatest happiness comes from kind of acting in a virtuous manner, and the most unhappiness comes from violating, moral law. And so, again, what I'm trying to do is suggest the impact of what we're talking about now will vary depending upon how much you knew about Adam Smith before you walked into this room. Primarily, he's presented as, the father of free market economy. He's, little bite-sized chunks and quotes are used more by the extreme political right than the left, in terms of kind of anti-government sorts of things are attributed, anti-government sorts of sentiments are attributed to him. And what I'm trying to do, at least in part, is just to kind of break some of those misconceptions that are based upon tiny slivers of what he's written. And so again, the power of that breaking is going to be just entirely a function of how much you've encountered him. At my old university, they heard more about Adam Smith, and they had more priors and more prior opinions. Here, apparently he's not talked about nearly as much. But nonetheless, these are still writings and thoughts, and I can tell I'm just exciting the bejeebers out of you. These are, which is a highly technical term, bejeebers, which means a lot. And so, and then I was so enthralled by the sea of yawns that I was watching that I lost my thought. I was so distracted by the sea of yawns that I was watching that I was distracted. But so what was the thought that I had? What was the thought that I had? What, Christy? What thought did I have?
You were thinking about ethical behavior.
Was I? Oh, I was just trying to talk about the guy who we primarily credit with being the popularizer of free market economy also wrote about all this other strange stuff, right? Moral behavior, family, man is inherently good, we pursue wealth based on a faulty estimate of its value, all that kind of stuff was written by the guy who said, well, we're all selfish, so let's kind of set up a system to kind of take advantage of that. All from the same pen. He never did use the term laissez-faire, although that is sometimes credited to him. I'm not doing a good job of getting these straight here. He did not see the pursuit of self-interest as being intrinsically good, which is very frequently how he's portrayed when he's quoted. And he didn't see government as intrinsically evil. Evidence of the second fact is the next bullet, whereas he served as a tax collector during a substantial portion of his life. He expected a growing government to accompany a growing economy. Why would you expect that? Why would the government grow as the economy grows?
More regulation.
Sir?
More regulation.
Why, though? That doesn't tell me why.
The economy grows, there's more people that need to be regulated.
I suppose. Regulate people, more people. What else? But actually, the economy can grow without growing the number of people. Just each of the individual people is more productive.
Population, but I'm saying more stuff's being produced and things.
Okay. What else? What other reasons? Huh? What about money?
Well, the larger the economy grows, the more people are paying taxes, the more people you have to hire in the government to take care of certain
Certain what's?
aspects of the government.
Can you be more specific?
Like your taxing, your auditing,
You need,
your political portions,
but what function are they helping though with? What function would the government, what function of an economy can a government help that businesses really can't take care of themselves? How do goods get from manufacturer to consumer? Transportation. How do things get transported? Infrastructure, by train, by truck. How does truck get around from place to place in the United States? By roads. Who builds roads? The state and federal governments. Who actually creates the sources of electricity? Very often subsidized by the federal government. So sources of power, sources of transportation, those sorts of things. As an economy grows, those are things that businesses usually can't figure out how to do for themselves because it requires cooperation on a scale that they're not equipped to do. And so governments provide infrastructure in particular to enable business to happen. Right? Right. And also, they provide a military to protect the economy from invasion. Right? As an economy grows, the country becomes more wealthy. Right? Right, Tony? Good. And therefore, the government will help protect the assets of those more wealthy individuals. Which is a little bit less of an issue today than it would have been, a couple hundred years ago or more, but it hasn't entirely gone away. And then he also assumed that some degree of government prohibition of immoral action would be necessary. And so, this again from the man who says we can all behave selfishly and everybody's better off, but nonetheless he feels that the government should be there and it should be doing some stuff. And David said reading Adam Smith was what were your words? Boring? Boring was his words. And also very, very difficult, because when did Adam Smith live? It's like, I'm sorry? 1600s, yeah, a long time ago. The English was different then. Very different. And so here are some quotes that might make some level of sense, because they're kind of short and almost in normal English. Vice is always capricious. Virtue only is regular and orderly. So he's speaking about kind of good versus bad behavior here. Self-command is not only itself a great virtue, but from it all other virtues seem to derive their principal luster. And then man is a weak and imperfect creature, he describes him as, but nonetheless inherently good. Inherently good. And selfish, because he's weak and he or she is weak and imperfect, that's why he or she is selfish, but inherently good nonetheless. So now, life gets just a smidgen interesting, more interesting, maybe. At least I think so. It is the fear of